that we might receive the adoption as sons. So God's been patient with history. God promised Jesus centuries before he actually sent him. So he picked the perfect time to send, obviously, because it's God calling the time. But has you ever thought about that as far as the timing of it? So that leads to the next question. Pat's got a microphone. We'll even kick this around a little bit. So if he figured out the time to send Jesus, he promised it, centuries later he actually did it, how do you think he's going to handle the promise to send him again? In his own good time. Now, again, he exhibits great patience with us, right? Say that again, Sylvia.
Your birth, being born at this time, is not an accident. You know, he knew you were coming. He knew he had a job for you. Now, if you're willing to do that job, that's up to you.
Right.
He knew you were coming.
And it's again, God's plan and our plans don't always meet up, do they? They should. And I would love if they did. But how many times have we said, are you sure about that? 2 Peter, let's jump over there real quick, and we're going to be there. Matter of fact, leave a finger there. We're going to go back to it in a little bit. But we're going to start 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. And like I said, keep a marker there because we'll be back. Verse 8 says, "But do not let this one fact escape your notice, beloved, that with the Lord 1 day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years like 1 day." So God is not restricted to what? Our version of time. So his patience can be 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 20 years. And that's good and bad, isn't it? I mean, how's that a bad thing? It could be tomorrow. It could be in 10 minutes. And if you're not ready, what about, the good thing is we have plenty of time to do what? Get ready, straighten up, fly right. So, yeah, say that again, Ms. Juanita. Yeah,
I said we might think we have plenty of time, but we might be surprised. Like he says, he'll come in like a thief in the night.
Thief in the night, yeah. It's well, and because, again, our version of time and his version of time don't match. Yes, sir.
Was there not a time when God had lost, or was, well, it depends upon how you view it. He, pretty much was going to tell Moses to step aside, that he was going to destroy. He'd had it. I mean, it seems like, to me, it's a story of he'd had it with the Israelites. And Moses had to plead with him to, don't do what you're going to do, please. I mean, wait, or what will people say? Will people say you brought them out here to destroy them? And so that, I guess depending on the perspective you have of that, how do we make sense of that? What do we do with that? We are to develop patience or work to develop patience, and yet even God had what seems to be He says, this is, my patient. It's ended. I'm going to go another course here. I'm going to destroy them. And yet Moses had to plead with him and reason with him about backing off from that decision. What do we make of that example?
That's a great question. I mean, how many times we hear about the Israelites? If you look in Judges, you look in Kings, you look in all of those places where they would be going good for a while and then just get dumb. And God would smack them, and the Babylonians or the Phoenicians or the whoever would destroy them. And then they would plead to God, and God would be like, okay. And then there'd be 40 years of good, or things like that. So,
Wait. That's an interesting point, right? I mean, because if you read in the Bible, God knew before he ever said, let there be light, he knew what he was going to have to do to reconcile man, right? But he could have done that. He could have done that with a different group, right?
correct. Yeah, he could have. And does he do it with us?
So, Philip, the very end of your verse, you didn't read the complete verse. It says, but is patient toward you. God is patient toward you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should repent. So God is very patient with us, and he doesn't want anyone to be lost.
And honestly, that's why I said hold the finger there, because she's right. That's the second half. Because God's patient with history, right? He's also patient with us. And that's what that verse says, is...
Always be ready.
always be ready.
I said, that's why we should always be ready. We don't know when he's coming back. He knows.
Right.
And he keeps telling us, be ready.
So that's why verse 9 is actually, it drives home the point of verse 8, or verse 8 says he's a patient God, and then verse 9 goes, well, not only is he a patient God, he's patient with us. Because we deserve immediate judgment, don't we? I mean, the world kind of mocks the whole idea of Jesus coming back, don't they? Like, he's not coming back. What is he going to, he'll look like Ted Nugent, or, it's just storyboard Jesus. But the whole reason Jesus hadn't returned yet is because of God's what? Patience with us. Because goodness knows we deserve immediate judgment for what we've done wrong. And God shows us a lot of patience. Keep your oil full. I'll just repeat it. So keep your oil full, keep your lamp ready, your oil full.
Lamp ready. Make sure you have plenty of oil.
Because it's not our call. I mean, wouldn't it be great to go, okay, God, come get me 2029. Let's do my birthday, September 5th, 2029. Come get me. If we could make that call, wouldn't that be kind of nice? Call our shot?
Philip.
Guess what? It doesn't work that way.
To Louise's point, right? She said that God is patient so that none would perish. So he's waiting until everybody hears the word. But how's everybody going to hear the word if we don't take them the word? If we don't take them the word.
We are responsible for sharing that word, obviously. So, yes. Yeah, it really does. 2 Peter 3 really lays it out that Paul didn't say it, but he means it. Aren't we lucky that God is patient? Because, and so we have been given the gift of time. How we use that time would be important. So, God sent us a perfect example of patience, didn't he? God sent us a template. Now, what's that template? the Bible, but he sent specifically one thing. Jesus. Think about the patience of Jesus. He was patient with sinners. He was patient with his own disciples, because goodness knows they went dumb on him several times. Because they were, obviously mortal and just a bunch of guys, and it's really hard concept to understand what Jesus was throwing at them. So they got lost in the message sometimes, but he was patient with them. Hebrews talks about it. Hebrews 12. It's a very well-known passage. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So Jesus shows patience with just us, just his church. Who else did he show patience with? Sinners. Sinners and sinners alike. You got somebody, Pat? I don't want to keep talking. Somebody's got something to add. So now that we know about God's patience, and we know about God's template, go ahead, Simon.
I was just going to make a comment of how sometimes we've got to be patient with ourselves, though, too. Personally, I feel like that there's times that I've wanted to mature a lot faster and be where somebody that's been, just part of the church for years and years and years, and they have a lot of wisdom, they have more life experience, and sometimes I feel that it's easy for us to want to be somewhere where we're not ready to be at yet, and to be patient in our growth and our journey as we learn and mature spiritually. For me, there's times I know that I want to be where somebody that has a lot more life experience is already at, and therefore, since I'm not there, sometimes I'm hard on myself. I'm like, man, I must be a failure, or I'm not adequately equipped, or I'll never be there, when God is just letting time develop and grow you as an individual and as a child. And so I think part of my struggle personally has been at times, it's like, man, I want to be there and I'm not there yet. And I struggle with the patience of waiting. And therefore, sometimes I feel like I'm inadequate or I'm not going to get there. And part of that maturation and that maturing process comes with time and study and being around others and learning and garnishing things from his word it just takes time.
I can speak for me. Well, it's a whole lot easier for me to be patient if I know how it's going to turn out. Like if I have a work situation that I see playing out and I know how it's going to play out, it's a whole lot easier for me to be patient with it, isn't it? Because you know the outcome. But that's not always the case, is it, with life or with your walk with God? I mean, there's going to be, you're right, there's going to be waves of growth, and then there's going to be times where you might flatten out a little bit. And again, the patience of God allows us to have those flat times, knowing that he's going to perfect us. So let's build on what Simon was just talking about. I'm sorry. Hang on. Pass me the microphone. Right here. Yeah, Bobby's here. In the perfect world, I'd have some hung from the ceiling.
But the great thing is that he doesn't make us wait for the punchline. We do know how it's going to turn out. And if we focus on that, we focus on the fact that we have been baptized into Christ, and we are going to spend all of eternity with him, then we can have patience because we can focus on what we do know about how it's going to turn out. And that's the most important thing anyway. All the details don't matter. The most important thing is that Jesus conquered sin, he conquered death, he's the victor. and we get to share in that victory with him and spend eternity with him. And now all we're doing is, he's already won. So all we're doing is we are trying to help as many people know and accept Christ as possible.
Yeah,
before
trying to get
then.
that word out, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, how much easier is it when you can be patient and you don't have to spend all that energy on worry? We talked about worry a couple of weeks ago, where you can spend your energy in the proper direction. The patience allows you to use that energy for, I'd say good, but it's definitely not, you're wasting it on, losing that patience with any kind of situation. So what are some of the things that try our patience? What are some of the obstacles to being patient? Let's just flesh those out a little bit. We're going to wear out Pat. That's okay.
Well, like yesterday when that tire blew, when we were out on the road, first thing my face went, ugh.
Right.
But then I thought, and I told Philip, I said, who knows what God saved us from? And sometimes a bad thing is a good thing. He may saved us from God knows what. So not all things that are bad. Just look behind the curtains.
Yeah, sometimes, and sometimes we'll never know what, maybe if there was something in front of us that would have been a problem, didn't happen. Hey, we were worried about the parade in Stonewall. We're going to get to Stonewall about the time the parade starts if we go that way. So we need to go another way. Well, guess what? We didn't have to worry about the parade in Stonewall anymore because we were 2 hours later than we thought we would be. And I talking about what Simon's talking about, sometimes, how many times have we said this phrase right here? How long is this going to take? When you're in line, when you're waiting to get a tires changed on a trailer, first question out of my mouth is, how long do you think this is going to take? And of course, the reason I was asking it was because I was trying to get word back to their parents to go, here's about when we're going to get home. That 11:30 thing, you can throw that out. But I at least wanted to give them a general idea of, so we're not sitting in our hot parking lot for 3 hours wondering where they are, and making up all kinds of stories about how, we're in a ditch or, stuck in Fredericksburg, find a parade or something like that. Hang on, it's Simon and then Miss Judy. Or Miss Judy and then Simon.
You need to tell them what happened on the way down about the bridge.
Yeah, it's true. Well, when we went through Kerrville, all of a sudden, like right in front of us, like every emergency vehicle in Kirk County showed up. And we ended up having to get into a gas station parking lot, and there was somebody from Stephenville with all their stuff wondering the same thing, of what do we do now? Because that one bridge, the only bridge across that river to get to the road we needed to get to camp, was closed because somebody had driven off of it. Like about 15 minutes before we got there. If that. So we had to be patient and figure out another way. So we ended up having to go through Center Point, and we did it. But it would have been a lot worse than being like in the wreck. Right? Yes, sir.
Just thinking about our culture, we live in a culture where I think there's a lot of instant gratification. At a click of a button, we can be tuned into information quicker than we ever have. I mean, the inception of the internet is something I think about. When you heard the old dial tone, I mean, there's youth today that have no clue what that means, I mean, having to wait for it to fire up. I mean, most of the time we get on our phones and we have a computer in our pocket, that 5G service and all the things that we really do, we take for granted, has instilled in us, I believe, a instant response. And man, it should be now. And if I have to wait and I have the inconvenience, and man, it's first world problems that we turn into a lot bigger problems. And I think spiritually, that spills over into our lives where we want, like, hey, God, I prayed for this. I want it now. Or, you need to operate on my timeline. And when we don't get it, we feel inconvenienced.
Well, I think it's an old song, "The Waiting's the Hardest Part." I think it's Tom Petty or somebody. But how often did you find yourself, because you're right, I'm old enough to remember if you didn't know something, you just didn't know it. I could get on my phone and then type in, what's the second verse to some song? Nowadays you can do that. You just didn't know until you ran into somebody wearing the t-shirt of that band and you could ask them. And if they told you, you felt marvelous, didn't you? But there's instant gratification. It goes against a lot of, God doesn't mind letting us know stuff right away. There's important stuff we'd like to know right away, like his plan. And if we can get that word out, then it's a good use of a computer or an internet, because God's plan, God's word, God's plan, God's love for us is all, and it's all good stuff to get out that way. But learning to trust God's timing is really hard, isn't it? It's something that just makes you. Yes, sir.
Hey, Philip, listen, patience too applies to our prayer life a lot, because and this is for me mainly, we pray and we expect maybe an answer right away, but God only answers in his own time and will. So we need patience even in our prayer life, for sure.
Well, and it kind of leads to a second obstacle to patience is like when we have trials. You know, how many times have we just wanted to say, why me, Lord? Not to be patient to see what's the lesson that God wants me to learn. In Romans, it talks about be devoted to one another in brotherly love, give preference to one another in honor, not lagging behind in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in hope, persevering in tribulation, devoted to prayer, contributing to the needs of the saints, practicing hospitality. It's a pretty good laundry list of things to do as a church, isn't it? But one of those is, of course, persevering in tribulation.
You know, Philip, when you were saying, why is this happening to me? And when I'm in my prayer life, my answer to myself is, why not? Why not? I always answer myself, I say, why is this happening to me? And then I go, well, why not? We are here on trials.
And I think trials, obviously, think about how do you build character? Getting through the fire. So God uses trials to help us build patience. Yes, sir.
I was told I hit my limit, but this is going to be my last one.
I'm keeping tick marks up here.
James, in James 1 and verse 2, it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Verse 4 says, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And so that patience, there's a benefit that comes from that patience and going through those trials. And part of it, like it says in the latter part of verse 4, is that you can be mature and complete. There's growth in those times where we do have to wait. In those seasons of waiting, there's a lot of times where, since we don't get it immediately, we get the benefit of being actually mature and maybe understand more on the other side of it than what we initially had at the beginning of it. And I think that is something that's so easily overlooked because we want that answer right now, is that we truly don't get the benefit that we would get if we continue to persevere through that trial or that tribulation and that time of waiting to understand what is on the other side. Just like Joseph, he went through a ton only to understand at the end, it's like, man, God meant this for a reason. God had a plan behind this. And I think of that story so often as that when we look at the story of Joseph, the years and years and years of probably questioning that he had, like, God, why is this happening? Why me? These visions and these dreams you showed me years ago, I don't see these even getting close to coming to fruition. But then years later, he understood.
Well, and how often do we do that in our lives where we go, oh, if we really reflect and go, that's what he's trying to teach me. Because sometimes the lessons are learned hard. And sometimes you don't even know you learned the lesson until you go, how did I learn that? It's like, I know how to learn that because God was patient enough to let me figure it out and teach me. So I think the third hindrance to patience is other people. Anybody been in traffic? I have to pray every day before I hit I-14, driving by Fort Hood, going to work every morning. Because there are people out there that I don't know how they got a license, or if they have one, or, like I said, many times ago, I learned a long time ago, never trust a pilot driving, and because they try to steer with their feet. It's weird.
They put the middle of the stripe right down the.
Yeah, it's funny how you put the nose right in the middle, right? Yeah, that's a little frightening. But when we have to deal with, how do we accept people the way they are? That's a tough lesson to learn, isn't it? Being patient with people is hard. That might be the hardest one for me. There are some days when I just don't suffer dumb very well. And it usually has to do with my fatigue level. It's usually how tired I am or how insecure I might feel. Or it usually has mostly to do with me. It's not them really, it's me that's the problem. But recognizing that's not always easy. And God talks about that. In Ephesians 4, 1 through 3, he says, "Therefore I, the prisoner of the Lord," this is Paul talking, "implore you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling in which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, showing tolerance for one another in love, being diligent to preserve the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace." So Paul's saying, you have to be patient with people because they're going to push your buttons. I may be one of the button pushers and not even know it. So they're not always doing it on purpose. So we've got 4 minutes. So let's just talk about maybe how do we get better at being patient? I'm just going to throw it open. Immersion therapy. So a day with Chad is a day with dumb. That's what I just heard. I don't need that. I've got my own inner thoughts to work with. But that's how you learn a language, right? You go to the country, sink or swim. Do we come to church and necessarily experience that? No. Like there's nobody here where I just shake my head and go, why are you breathing? No, there's none of that. There's a lot of imperfect people. You're looking at one of the most imperfect people in front of you. But how do we work on patience? How do we reflect God by patience? There we go. I'll throw that out there for the last 2 minutes. And we'll stop there with the comments. So let's talk about that.
I'm at my limit now too, but I liked what she had to say. Why not? Why not me? And let go and let God. I don't do that very well, but
it's hard. It is hard to say, okay, what, Jesus take the wheel? Is that the country song? Jesus take the wheel? That's a very difficult concept for me some days because I'm kind of a control freak at times, and especially when I'm doing things in my professional life because, I've got 35 years and I just know better, whether I do or not. Yes, ma'am.
So I must have prayed for patience too much as a kid because having 6 kids, many chickens, my husband working now 60 hours, all the patience falls on me.
They've got some to spare, I assume.
Yeah.
We have to come get you.
Because my boss keeps telling me I'll go into work and I just tell her what's going on for the week and she's like, "You must be really patient." I'm like, "I don't see it because I feel like I'm screaming at the kids half the time."
But somebody sees it, obviously.
Yeah. So I don't know. You said, how do we get more patience? I don't know. Someone who's young maybe should have a lot of kids and God will give them patience.
But you did mention one thing that is, I did write down, asking for it. Asking God for it. He will give it to you. He'll give you, what does he always say? My grace is sufficient. I'm not going to give you more than you can handle kind of deal. Well, I mean, that's what God promised that. And so you need this much patience. He's going to give you this much patience. And I need to recognize that more.
Yeah. You know, when I left Germany and we came over here, Randy left the army, he went back, and we didn't have any money. We were in really, really bad shape. Mom and Dad came to visit from Germany, and Mom cried, and she said, baby, you got to come home with me. You can't come home with Mama. I had a little boy. I wasn't a Christian yet, but you know what I said? I have a baby with this man. I'm married to him, and walking away is easy. And I stayed, and I'm severely blessed. I'm living in a country I wasn't born in, but you know, that was God's plan. So
You have to be careful when you pray for patience, because you think God is going to go, okay, you're patient. What he's going to do is give you a reason to be patient.
Be patient, yeah.
Like you get a red-headed daughter, and well, yeah.
All right, anything else before we call it a day? How much patience did Noah have? Can you imagine? Because she's right. Juanita's right. How much patience did Noah have? Cooped up in that, it's a big boat, but it's still a boat with all those animals and critters and the smells and got to get them fed. And it's like, oh, great, the elephants are out again. And it's like, did anybody see the penguins? So that required a lot of patience. The good news is God has said, I'll give it to you. And he gives us a measure, and we ask, he's going to give us what we need, and he's going to understand us way better than we understand us, and I'm grateful for that. Any other questions or comments? Anything? I appreciate the input today, guys. Thank you so much. All right, so next week, you already know what we're going to talk about.